As always, with us is Dr. Michael Laitman. Hello. Hello, everyone. We have many questions about the topic. It's a very intriguing theme in and of itself, the Exodus from Egypt. And the first question is, who is Pharaoh? And what's the difference between him and other entities or characters from the Torah, like the serpent, Amalek, Haman? What's so special about Pharaoh? There's just one force in the world, which is the quality of the Creator, the quality of love, connection, delighting others, etc. All those things that we can define as the quality of the Creator in relation to us. If it's not in relation to us, then we can't understand altogether who or what He is. And the quality that is His opposite in completely everything is the quality of Pharaoh, the quality of our ego. Meaning there are only two forces, so to speak, positive and negative. So the negative force is Pharaoh, and the positive force is the Creator. But still, what's the difference? What's the difference between the serpent, Amalek, Pharaoh? It's all in relation to man? Of course. We see it only in relation to man. If it's not in relation to man, we can't say that something exists in nature at all. So what's the difference between when this kind of force called Pharaoh, that it appears in a person, and the force of the serpent? It's the same, only there are different aspects, actions, that are called differently. But in general, it's the same negative force of nature, egoistic force, and therefore it has different names. So on the different levels of development of man, it's expressed differently. Yeah, in nature there is plus and minus, and they exist in parallel and are called differently according to their level, to how they're expressed, revealed. And what does it mean that Pharaoh changes all the time? If we follow the story, first he was good, then bad, what does it mean? He, in and of himself, doesn't change. The only thing that changes is how does he appear towards man. That at first it seems to a person that Pharaoh is good, that he satisfies him in everything, understands him, leads him, gives him a good place of residence in Egypt, etc. And then gradually starts to appear the bad Pharaoh, another Pharaoh. And so it says in the Torah that a new master started ruling Egypt. It's not a new master, it's the same, only simply that man changed, and he demands a different kind of attitude toward him. And so also Pharaoh changed, and he doesn't give man what he would like. And so what you get is a bad Pharaoh. I heard you say that Pharaoh exists only in a group of people that try to unite, to connect in order to reveal that higher force in nature, the Creator, and only then this force appears between them. No, our ego appears on all levels, regardless of where we are, who are we in contact with, etc. The ego is our nature, but if we want to understand this nature, make it stand out, start working with it, to start changing and to change it, then here we're already engaged with a force or qualities of nature called Pharaoh. So, simple division in society, the day-to-day ego between people obviously exists, but it's not Pharaoh. Right, so Pharaoh is that quality that when a person starts to consciously work toward others, then it appears. Right. All these characters from the Torah, they appear only when one does conscious work. Right. When one, in an oriented fashion, tries to change himself. Yeah. And so this force is vis-a-vis to the Creator. It doesn't allow a person to reveal the Creator. When a person wishes to direct himself towards the Creator, then he starts seeing the force that stands in his way of doing that, and that is already Pharaoh. I heard you say that Pharaoh is the opposite side of the Creator. What does it mean? Meaning that if the Creator is good and pushes us toward the good, he pushes us towards connection, wishes to elevate us, bring us to a state where we will be higher than all of nature. Then Pharaoh does the exact opposite. He pulls us down, doesn't allow us to grow as human beings. He wishes for us an ordinary, restricted, bestial life. It's even written that Pharaoh, by module, equals the Creator. Right. Only it's his opposite side. So, as the Creator is great, and we can envision him that way, to that same extent Pharaoh is only to the other side, right, the only difference between Pharaoh and the Creator is that the force of Pharaoh, you can work to your own benefit, and with the forces of the Creator, you can work to the benefit of others. It's written in the Torah, where the Creator himself tells Moses, let's go to Pharaoh, meaning he doesn't say go to Pharaoh, but he tells him, let's go together. What does it mean? Furthermore, Moses doesn't want to go to Pharaoh at all. He doesn't want to go, he's afraid. And the Creator says, don't worry, I'll come with you. As if calms him down, soothes him, telling Moses everything is fine, we'll go together. But really, it's not a good visit, because Pharaoh, since then, already starts to go at Moses, and even at the Creator. He says, who is the Lord that I should obey his voice? We'll come to those questions. And someone sent us an interesting question. He says, what, does a person really feel the Creator? How do you imagine that exactly? Let's go to Pharaoh. He gives an example. It's like that joke goes that if you talk to the Creator, then it's fine. But if the Creator talks to you, then you should get it checked. So what does it mean? Let's go to Pharaoh. How does a person feel that? A person wants to turn to the Creator so that the Creator will help him rise from his ego to the level of love, bestowal, altruism. And this is the exit, one's exit from the Egyptian exile, from under the rule of Pharaoh. But how is it? A person hears some voice telling him, let's go to Pharaoh? No, there are no such voices here. Don't turn Kabbalah into some kind of a psychological problem. So how does a person feel it? Suddenly I hear, let's go to Pharaoh. You understand that Pharaoh is called your egoistic state, and in order to regulate him, you need to take him and position him vis-a-vis your altruistic state, and to correct the one with the help of the other, meaning the quality of bestowal and love. You're willing to use it in order to correct the quality of reception and hate. It's like you don't have the tools, the means to feel it. It's like a child inside his mother's womb, and he can't understand that outside that there's a world, there's time, space, motion. Same thing here. It's like you're saying certain words, but there's like no volume to them. How do you get these feelings? You can get the feeling only if you start trying to reveal it inside yourself. Okay, so Pharaoh, as it says, he brings those who wish to attain the Creator closer to him, Pharaoh himself. How does that negative force bring us closer? It only seems negative to us. It actually spites us. It brings us closer to the Creator. It awakens our ego and pulls us forward as if to attain egoistic fulfillments, and when we come closer, suddenly we find out that with the help of the ego, we can't reveal anyone or anything, and we're really in a stalemate situation. So it's like through negation of negation, through the recognition of the evil of our nature. Yeah, exactly so. That's how we come to it. It's written that Pharaoh means work within reason, where a person wants to understand everything within his own reason, the entire process and everything. So the question is, what's wrong with that? It's simply impossible. It's not that it's good or bad, it's simply impossible. It's the same as seeing the spiritual world with our eyes. We understand that our vision perceives only a certain range of information on a certain frequency, and we can't perceive or grasp something else. Well, it's similar to where I ask and you explain about the positive force with which you balance out your ego, which is the negative. Technically, it's all clear. But where's that force? Where do you take it? You have to tune yourself. And this is something that is nonetheless done at heart. Like it says in the book of Zohar, that the attribute of Pharaoh lays within reason, and within reason there is no way to come out from under the rule of Pharaoh, but only by the power of faith above reason. What does it mean? That bestowal is more important than reception. If a person wishes to enter a spiritual state, he needs to understand that the spiritual is built on the basis of bestowal and not reception. So when bestowal is more important to me than receiving for myself, that's called faith above reason. Right. Meaning anything that I can imagine or explain to myself within reason, these are my egoistic qualities, and all that I wish to acquire is above that. Right. It's written that Pharaoh is considered the olive, the narrow in the sea. He would suck out the abundance that comes to the lower ones with his question, who is the Lord that I should obey his voice? That's what it's written in the source texts. Well, it's a translation, of course, but the entire problem is that when a person aspires for spirituality, different doubts start to appear in him, and these doubts, they're expressed in two questions, actually, that appear in a person. Who must I obey? Where should I go? And why do I need to bow to the qualities of bestowal, of love? Why do I need to come closer to others? Why do I need to hate reception and to exalt the quality of bestowal? All of these questions, and you can phrase them differently, ask them differently, but they all come down to the questions of ma, mi, who, and for what. So, if there's this inner voice that awakens in me that says, who is the Lord that I should obey his voice? The thing isn't who is the Lord. The thing is, who is the Lord that I should obey his voice? That's true. And what do you answer? You can't answer it. We have no answer for that. We have no answer for these questions. There's just one answer. I go above these questions. And that's called faith above reason, right? I can't get an answer to them. What will give me the kindling? You have no other choice. By starting to answer that way, you'll see that you get the energy, you get the opportunity to continue your spiritual journey. So there's something interesting here, that there's no kindling, but when you take the first step, out of somewhere it starts to appear. Right, it's made so on purpose. Because we understand that our nature works only if I get something out of it. You're getting something out of it, and your nature, even though that as if it's standing behind Pharaoh, but it's standing behind the Creator. So we need to understand that it's made that way on purpose in order to teach a person. Even though that it's simple to explain the question of who's the Lord that I should obey His voice. The Creator, He's a force that I fear, at least that. That's not enough, because you don't reveal Him. So it's for someone who already wants to reveal Him, he gets this question. Of course, meaning it already comes out of some kind of perception, attainment of the Creator to some extent, when you already start understanding what that force is. When man really starts coming closer to the Creator, these questions start appearing in him, and the answer to them is just one. I consider this as something necessary for myself, or as it says, hit him in the teeth. I wanted to ask about that too. It's an option, right? Of course it's an option. It's when, no matter how much I try to answer that question for myself, I see no results. Still, it keeps appearing and again, and then, simply as it says, hit him in the teeth, meaning I tell him, shut up, I don't want to hear you anymore. I am going above you, in faith above reason. By the way, for sheer interest, why in the teeth? For him to shut up? Well, I don't want to get into it, but there is a meaning to it. Of course there is. Because there are the 32 teeth, which are 32 millstones that grind the reason, and it can already then be swallowed by us. By the way, the first question of who's the Creator that I should obey Him is a question within reason. The second question is at heart, and it goes like this. What do you need this work of serving the Creator for? That's at heart. What does it mean? You answer neither. It's simply important to me. There's no answer? No, a person simply says that it exists in me. It's a pre-made substance for the mind and heart that exists in me, by which I advance. So, if I correctly understand, when this altruistic force appears in a person, like where it says that you need to connect, love another, give your pillow, etc., then a person starts asking, what do I need it for? What do I gain as a result? There's no answer to it, because were we to speak in the right, correct concepts, then a person gets no benefit from being in this world, the spiritual world, if from the point of view of his ego, he can't weigh these two worlds. Nonetheless, subconsciously we feel, yeah, but it's the next world, it's the spiritual world, it's the light, it's the Creator, and this is our world. What's so special about it? What do I risk losing here? What can I lose in this world? What don't I know yet? And I don't want it all together anyway. But it's not so. This isn't the way this question should be put. It is a question that appears in people when they seriously start working on themselves. Because if to simply believe in God, like it usually happens, then really it's unclear. What are these questions? Yeah, right, then everything's simple. They go through all that it says about in the Torah, meaning there's the Creator, there are certain actions that I need to perform, for that I'll get the next world. Everything's clear. Right. Touch upon it lightly, and that's that. And the thing is that these questions are described in all the source texts, meaning those who attained it wrote about it. Of course. And I read this story many times about the Exodus from Egypt, and I couldn't understand why does the Creator constantly harden the heart of Pharaoh. And I found something that your teacher writes about it, that the hardening of the heart is necessary in order for a person to acquire a true need for the truth. The need for the Creator's help. So that's the thing. Because a person nonetheless thinks, well, I'm not so good at it this time, next time I'll be able to do it, I'll be smarter, I'll be stronger, etc. He comes to the recognition that there's nothing in him or can be that he will be able to defeat Pharaoh. Simply doesn't exist. And then he becomes needy of the Creator. Meaning he comes to a prayer. Right. Your teacher, Rabash, writes that the burdening of the heart was necessary in order for the ability to pray to appear. So it's not the Creator who needs the prayer, but man himself. Of course, because what does the Creator need? And what does man need the prayer for? To come to what? For the desire to receive help from the Creator to be formed in him. Meaning a conscious desire that includes in it the recognition of evil, the greatness of the goal, and everything else. Right. So a prayer, it's not simply to say something, but it's the final step that a person needs to come to. The prayer is the final action on part of man, where truly he has all that is necessary to correctly turn to the Creator. So there are certain conditions in order to come to that prayer. Right. Okay, now it's clear why it said that the prayer is everything, that you don't need anymore. Right. But where is that point that you push and out comes a prayer? Look for it and push. Besides you, no one will find that point. Meaning a person himself needs to find it. Of course. Also it says that the children of Israel sighed from the work. The children of Israel, meaning those who aspire straight to the Creator, Yashar Kel, from the word Israel. What kind of work do they sigh, cry out from? A person sighs from not being able to come out of Egypt, out of his ego. He cries out because he wants to come out from the egoistic world into the altruistic one, so that all of his actions will be altruistic, that he'll ask nothing in return for them, but only that he'll be able to do, to fulfill them. And all the rewards, may everyone else get them, even if he doesn't know about it and they don't know about him. This is what a person wants. But he doesn't succeed. And here he comes to his final outcry. Yeah, it's written in the excerpt that the Egyptians and Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, they passed on to those who tried to serve the Creator their thoughts and desires, and that's why it was difficult for them. So again, they sighed from what? From the egoistic thoughts and desires that appeared in them from the Egyptians, from their egoistic desires and thoughts, in short. So, I also suffer as a result of these two questions. Of course, you didn't answer them yet. So when I want to reveal the Creator, these questions appear in me. Who is the Creator that I should obey Him, and what do I need this work for? And the work becomes difficult. Of course, precisely because of that, it becomes difficult. And after that, from that, we come to a prayer. Yes. Your teacher, in his article, quotes from the Torah, "Remember that you were slaves in the land of Egypt." Why does a person need to remember? Well, to remember traditions, that's clear, but in the spiritual work, what does it mean to remember? To remember, it means that you need to constantly awaken this state in you, where you're a slave to the ego. But to remember means that you're right now not in the ego, but you awaken it, the ego, in order to work even more deeply with it and to rise even higher above it. Because you exited Egypt. That's it. You're in faith above reason. And then what? You need to awaken these Egyptian states in order to constantly rise above them, higher and higher, up to the complete and full correction. From what I understand, we said that we need to cultivate the greatness of the quality of bestowal and the Creator, and not to remember how bad it was in the ego. Or you need both. It's not that you remember, you awaken these qualities in you, because nonetheless they still exist in you. But they are already above your transition from egoism to altruism. And in altruism, you already awakened them, meaning for my further work. Right. Meaning when we came out of Egypt, we didn't reach the end of correction yet. It's only the beginning. You have 125 degrees to go. And then I start to consciously awaken it by myself in order to correctly work with them. Right. It's also written that when a person's in Egypt, he can't be a Yehudi, a Jew. That comes from the word yichud, connection, meaning he can't be connected neither with the Creator, neither with other parts of the shattered kli of Adam. So when he's slave to Pharaoh, he can't be a servant to the Creator. Of course. How is it better to serve the Creator than to be Pharaoh's slave? At first, we don't know what's better and what's not. We're pushed toward it by our nature, our reshimo, our records. And then we start feeling that serving the Creator, by it we unite between us, with each other, and give the Creator pleasure. We can awaken the upper light upon ourselves, and it gives us the opportunity, the desire to rise above the ego. And then the work in the altruism already becomes preferable and possible. So a person's either under the rule of Pharaoh or the rule of the Creator, meaning he's slave to Pharaoh or servant of the Creator. There's no neutral state. Right. Another interesting thing is that Pharaoh orders to kill all the firstborns, to throw them into the Nile, and leave the girls to live. Because boys, they represent the intention, and girls, the desire. A desire without intention, you can turn it any which way. And the intention, that's the main thing you need to kill. Why is everything so encoded? Why couldn't you just say intention without boys and girls, or is it impossible? The thing is that the Torah, first of all, is written for all people without exception, not only for Kabbalists. And it's written for all times. And it's written for everyone, men and women. Meaning, more or less, it needs to be clear for everyone and everything, each on their level. A little boy starts studying what it says in the Torah, and a grown-up man and a woman, and elderly men and women who attain our world to some extent, and attain the spiritual world up to its highest state. And for all that, there is this one text. So describe to me, in detail, clearly, shortly, however you want, all these states that we need to go through, all of humanity. I'll suppose not today, but in the next 5,000 years. Okay. Also, it is written that the king of Egypt died. What does it mean? Meaning that in their eyes, he no longer exists. He died. What can we learn from Pharaoh? From Pharaoh? Everything. Besides how to directly serve the Creator. But actually, Pharaoh is everything, including everything. And he even teaches us how to serve the Creator, only we don't understand his teachings, how he teaches us. But actually, everything that exists in us, everything that propels us forward, teaches us, builds us, directs us, it's all Pharaoh. Sometimes it's said that Pharaoh is cunning, wise, and sometimes it says that he's foolish. What is he really? Pharaoh is the entire nature of the world, not only of ours, but all the world's. It is that desire that needs to be corrected, and that afterwards will exist in a state of complete adhesion with the Creator. Why does it say that he's old and foolish? Well, that's in relation to man's attainment, the person's attainment, that he's foolish, for he has no knowledge of his own, fulfillment of his own, and has no force of his own, because all that comes to him comes from the quality of bestowal. But without that quality that Pharaoh takes upon himself, meaning to teach about the quality of bestowal and the quality of reception, to the desire to receive created by the Creator, it's all Pharaoh's mission. It's his work. Everything that we have comes from Pharaoh. The light of the Creator passes through Pharaoh, building the whole of creation, creating all actions, but precisely passing through the system called Pharaoh. So, don't disregard Pharaoh. No, it simply says that he's old and foolish. Yeah, but it's in relation to a certain state where you attain something. Okay. So, Pharaoh, in scientific language, we can say that it is the substance of our entire egoistic world. Right. Well, we're toward the end. I'd like to ask about the Egyptian plagues. Who experiences them? The Egyptian plagues are experienced by man who has not yet released himself from his egoistic intention. But a person feels these 10 plagues on himself? Of course. And those desires that are not corrected yet in the intention for the sake of the Creator. In them, a person feels punishment. How not to identify with Pharaoh, that it's him, let him suffer. Precisely these punishments help you not to identify with him, to part with him. Of course. So these 10 blows, they're 10 portions of light, so that after each such portion, a person will be able to separate from him. Last question. It's interesting. I just watched the news, and today, on the verge of the holiday of Passover, there is an enormous amount of Israelis who are now traveling to Egypt, to Sinai. Hundreds of thousands. There are big lines, etc., etc. Long lines. I don't know, maybe it's symbolic, but the question is, turns out that our nature does not change. We can say that back in those times, not everyone wanted to exit Egypt too. Well, of course, they can travel there, to that place where They as if received the Torah? No, they're going to hotels, resorts, have a good time. Not to Santa. Right, to Sinai, to relax. Okay, and so the question is, turns out that man's nature doesn't change. Back then, as now, people are engaged in delighting themselves. Of course, nature didn't change. Only those who wish to rise above it, in them it changes. So, could we imagine that 3,400 years ago, a small amount of people left Egypt, meaning both physically, but especially it's about spirituality. Right, meaning there was a certain amount of people who revealed the Creator and exited Egypt, meaning exited the ego. Or in our world too, there were hundreds of thousands or millions of people that exited. I can't say. Or there were both. Suppose that there were both. Meaning, suppose hundreds of thousands exited, and among them there was a certain amount of people who also came out of the ego. So be it. Difficult to explain. It's impossible to explain, because our entire world is imaginary, depicted only in our senses. And therefore it seems to us as something tangible, but it's not rock. It's not a mountain, it's not something, it's nothing. The feelings that appear and disappear in us. And therefore it's impossible to bring to this serious platform. The only possible thing is come, study, and feel it yourselves. And until then, all the best to you. Thank you very much.